What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. Today we're doing the Daytona Regionals 2019 meta discussion. LAIC happened just over a week ago, and this is the next standard format regionals. So it should be pretty exciting to see if Mewtwo and Abilities can just stay at the top of the format, if ADP will be popular again. And I have a few guests with me today, and we're going to talk about those topics. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves, Isaac, Hunter, then Alec.
Hey, I'm Isaac. I'm a player from South Florida, sponsored by NRG, and I have 410 CP.
Awesome.
My name is Hunter Butler. I've been playing for 13 years. I'm also from Florida. I play for Cutter Tap, and I have 435 CP.
And Alec?
What's up, guys? My name's Alec. I am not from Florida. I am also sponsored by NRG. I write for Flipside Gaming and soon to be a new different site coming out on Friday. And I am sitting at 368 CP.
Great. And Hunter, you played at LAIC, correct?
I did.
Why don't you just start us off with a brief what you thought the meta would look like there, and how surprising or how expected it ended up being for you?
Okay, so there's like 3 key rules that everyone needs to know if they want to go to Brazil, or if they go to Brazil and have been to Brazil before. So the number 1 key rule is that the first 4 rounds of almost most of everybody's tournaments, like as individual players, will be against completely random decks that are not meta at all. Like Brazilians like to play whatever they want. They don't adhere to a meta, and even the average player will play, basically random jank. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is when playing in Brazil, I believe that nothing will be over like 10%, 15% normally. Because there's just so many new decks. Brazil always gets to be in that new format where they get like a new set. I think it's been the first international 2 out of 3 times. So it's always a first big event. So there's always a wide amount of diversity. So it's hard to make a meta call at LAIC. And then the third thing is that when you play in Latin America, you have to be more attentive to what's going on because there's so much cheating going on. I myself got cheated against twice this past weekend. The first time that I went there 2 years ago, I got cheated against once, and even I got to see someone get cheated against. I was sitting behind Igor's match, and he got cheated against, and I even watched that happen. So those are the 3 things you need to know about going into Brazil. But what I thought about the meta was I figured there'd be a crap ton of Mali because I figured it was a comfort pick, and traditionally Green Zard had been winning there, like everything. And so nobody had respected Mali. And so now that Americans, Europeans, Australians, everybody was coming in, I figured Brazil would kind of snap to and say, it's time to figure out what's good with Mali. And I thought Mewtwo was going to be the biggest because I felt like all the Americans were just like, didn't test, we're all on expanded, like time to just play the best deck. So that's what I kind of expected going into the tournament.
Cool. Would you be able to move your mouth just slightly further away from your mic?
Sure.
Just a tad.
That sound good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, just didn't want everybody to get upset about a little static there. Okay, great. So since Hunter was the only one out of the 4 of us that went to Brazil, I thought I would have him start us off with a little bit about Brazil. So my first question to get into this is going to be at LAIC, Mewtwo Tag Team variants and Arceus Dialga Palkia variants were first and second in popularity. Do you think this will change for Daytona? Why or why not? Isaac.
Well, I think the one thing about Mewtwo is that it'll never die. So that's why I was able to get second. And the guy's list was also like dealt to beat the Ability Zards that came in. That no one was expecting Ability Zards. So, and he had hoods in his list, so he was like dealt to beat those. But I think that they'll both still be popular, but I don't think they'll be as big in numbers because a lot of people will like switch to Ability Zard because a lot of people that's like just their deck that they know and they've played for so long, and now they saw Robin win with it, they're going to want to play it again. So I think that the numbers of Mewtwo to ADP will lower a little bit.
Cool. And do you think ADP? So do you think they're both going to drop then? Mewtwo and ADP.
They'll both still be really popular, but I don't think we'll see like an absurd amount.
Yeah,
like
they were each 10% in Brazil.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Then over to Hunter.
Good. Oh well, I'm glad I didn't actually look at the percents that you sent. I was just like, oh, there shouldn't be anything that's bigger than 15.
Yeah,
so
those were the top, and they were each just about 10%.
I was going to say, I'm glad I'm not wrong. But, so Mewtwo, I think, is a deck that is a meta-defining card. Like Mewtwo as a card is a meta-defining card. So Mewtwo will always be able to adapt to the format. Just needs to know what the meta is coming in for Mewtwo to be prepared for. Which I see a lot of people are just like, oh, I'll be prepared for ADP and be prepared for Gardy and be prepared for Keldeo. So I think Mewtwo won't decrease in play. I think Ability Zard is going to see a massive increase because people love to high roll with the 4-welder. We saw it before when everyone was like, Reshi's the best deck. There's uncontested BIF. Nothing beats Reshi.
Yeah.
Like those kind of people are gonna just pick it up. Even though I think it took Robin to run hot to win the tournament, and that's probably not the best opinion of it. But that's how I feel like. I feel like the deck isn't that good. I feel like if you hit Welder every turn, the deck's amazing. If you don't, I feel like the deck is worse Mewtwo. I like Mewtwo much better. And then ADP. I think ADP will definitely go down in play for sure, because I think people will realize that it's too slow. Mm-hmm. And if you're gonna play it, I think you need to change the way you're doing it. But I think Mew 3 for sure will stay constant. Ability Zard will go up and ADP will go down.
Cool. Yeah. Also, to add on Hunter's thing, like one thing in Florida is like Ability Zard is like by far the most popular. Like everyone in Florida loves it. All the locals love it. Mm-hmm. So they're all gonna roll up to Daytona with it. That's just a fact.
Like me and Isaac's League Cups before, like a little bit before Worlds and after Worlds. Literally, I would say like at least 30% Ability Zard.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. Cool. A lot of them will play it for Daytona for sure.
Yeah, so the local meta seeing their favorite deck come back into Viability.
Yeah.
They're
right. And the Florida local meta isn't like, I'm not trying to trash other communities because obviously Florida is pretty stacked, but like our average player is like not awful here in Florida.
No, I know. Yeah, for sure.
They have a good level of skill here, like for an average player.
Yeah, there's a lot of like top 16ers and the like in Florida that kind of make the average player reach to a higher level.
Definitely, for sure.
And over to Alec. Anything about Mew 3 and ADP? They were first and second for popularity in LAIC. Where do you think they're going in Daytona?
ADP sucks, so it'll go down in play for sure. Mewtwo is very, very good. I think it's uncontested BDIF, so it should stay up in popularity. I think it's Ability Zard too. Like it's just a better Ability Zard. So I think Mewtwo is just way better, and it'll continue to see the play that it will, especially by the top players, because the top players know that it's the best deck in the format, and they know that ADP sucks. So I think that'll those balance out. Like Mewtwo will definitely seem like the same to a little bit more potentially, and then ADP sucks. So just don't play it.
Okay, so if we can pick apart what you said there to get some different information or look at it a different way. So the best players know that Mew 3 is good. I would agree. I do think it's very good. And like seeing, Danny and Azul win back-to-back regionals with similar lists. And they both did well both weekends in a row, or at AC and Knox, whatever it was. So good players know it's good. The deck hasn't changed much. Its positioning in the meta, I would argue, has not. Its viability is still similar to what it was before Cosmic Eclipse. But ADP, you're saying so the best players know it's not good. When we're looking at what the meta is going to be day one, we almost don't even care about the best players. What does the general community, Alec, what do you think they think about ADP? Is it the hot takes or the well-temperature takes from very good players saying it's not good, or do you think the whole community is in agreement with that?
I hope everybody just realizes and actually puts time and effort to play this game to realize that ADP is so bad that you cannot play the deck functionally to survive this tempo format, because you can't survive a Mewtwo deck that goes attach. Like Mewtwo can attach, pass, and still have a threat on your board of getting your ADP knocked out the next turn, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you cannot survive an ability Zard that can sit there and while they're attached, and then next turn you're just like, okay, attach, pass, and then I can go 9 Temptations while they're 3 energy, 300. It's just ridiculous. Right. You cannot play ADP.
I agree with all that, but then you got to think about the times that the ability Zard's going attach. Well, I calmed for dinner, my hand's dead. Boom, ADP gets a free attachment. Then you turn 2 welder, and then ADP's going.
Yeah. So, I do like that Alec mentioned the tempo of the format, right? So ADP was the deck I tested most for this format. Testing personally, this standard format I'm not very well invested in. I'm not going to any of the regionals for this standard format. I don't even know if I'm playing in any cups or challenges for the standard format. Like expanded's where I'm at right now, but I did test a few decks for content creation purposes, and so I would have some evidence to back up my opinions. And ADP is what I've sunk a lot of time into. And I was originally on the ends resolve, like you can't just go slow kind of theory. Since me and my friends and testing group, Alec being one of them, knew Ability Zard was going to be good for LAIC, I knew I couldn't just sit there and go like greens in an ADP deck and attach an energy. So I don't think the decks from the lists from ADP that did well last week can do well in this tempo. I agree with Alec there. But I also agree with Hunter that if the deck does get a turn to set up, like if its opponent does just falter for a turn or so, then you just run through them with Keldeos potentially.
Yeah, I think it. Oh, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Isaac.
No, I was just gonna say I think it only did well because it was a blind meta, and no one when everyone was testing the deck, no one was really worried that much about Keldeo, even though they should have been, and that's why none of the Guardians did well. That all made, or only 4 made day 2, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the only reason why ADP did good is because no one was ready.
And all of that
also, there's variations of lists that can do separate things. Okay, so for instance, the Rock Games guys, Zach and Connor Finn, they played Rayquaza and E-Switch to speed up their deck a little bit, which is something that you could do. I'm also messing around with 2 ADP variants. They're a bit out there, but one's really slow and one's kind of more of a lock deck. But I think ADP has been yet to be broken yet. I think ADP is in the beginning stages of all right, what's the correct engine? And then boom, that question hasn't been answered yet. And then the next question is, what are the right attackers? What's the right, or do we have a bunch of attackers? Do we have one solid, a pairing, just 2 Pokemon? Is greens good? Is multiple ends good? Stuff like that. I'm messing around with a version that it's kind of built like the deck that myself and Gustavo played for LAIC that uses greens and Mismagius. And I'm going to try and make it work, and it's going to be ADP and Wailord. So you use ADP to power up Wailord and use tag switches, and use Misty and Lorelei to do 2 GX attacks. You try and Planet Stamp them really early with the Mismagius, play multiple Dust Stone, and you have Choice Helmet, so your ADP is 310 and your Wailord's 330. So nothing in the format can one-shot you. And you have Malalana and Surge, so you can go Surge, Malalana if they smack you for a crap ton. And you basically just welter around using ADP setup attack and attaching energy and healing, and then you come to this point where you just double GX. I have that version, and then I have another version that has 4 Cryogonal and a 3/3 Shedinja, so it's kind of like the old. So you basically attach to ADP, pass, and next turn attach Shedinja to the ADP GX. Your ADP's only worth 2 prizes now, and then you just Cryogonal the whole game, and you use Brock's Grit and Cynthia Caitlin to keep going through Quaking Punch for the rest of the game, and then you end your game with the ADP second attack. You just punch 2 things to death and then boom, hit them with ADP, the ultimate ray. So I'm working on both of those. Don't know if they're ready for this event, but I think ADP has a lot of room to improve.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, or two great examples of ADP just is very, very plain right now. I think that's the best way to say it. It's very plain.
Vanilla.
Yeah, we got our 2 or 3 ADPs, we got our 2 or 3 Keldeos, a couple one of non-GXs. Do you play End Resolve or don't you play End Resolve? Boom, there's your deck. So I think it has a lot of room to grow. But I do want to move on from ADP and on to Guardian. I think Guardian was one of those decks that had a little more hype before people actually started testing with Cosmic Eclipse. Like, it was one of those cards that looked like it gained things and looked like it gained good matchups. But once people started actually playing with it, I heard that it wasn't as good as we thought it would be. But over 70 people played it in LAIC. I do want to take into account a couple of factors, like the availability and the cost of cards, so that could be why people played it, the local meta, and also the skill level or the meta forecasting skill of the players there. That could have all went into Guardian seeing so much play. Do you think the play was justified, and what do you think it's going to look like for Daytona, Alec?
Can you hear me?
Alec? Yeah.
Okay, that was weird. I don't know. My phone was
No, you're
I was
good.
talking and I couldn't hear you. So, Guardian, I really like the deck. I really think the tools like we got are very good. Like Tag Call, Cynthia, Caitlin, Malamar. I don't know. Like all the tools that we got were very good for it. But I can't consistently beat Ability Zard. So that steers me away from the deck, which is I like the deck. I looked at the top 16 list and I did a whole article on why I think Guardian actually looks active to the top 16. And I think it was not as good of a play as it should have been. Mainly because people like, as much as like I want to say they did respect it, they didn't respect it at the same time. So I don't know. I think the deck is very like good. The deck is good and it has the tools. It just I'm scared about its matchups. I don't think you always consistently beat Mewtwo, especially with the one guy who didn't play any charm. It just seems really, really hard, and I'm like worried about the abilities on matchup and the Mewtwo matchup as my top 2 matchups going into this weekend.
Right. We'll get to birds a little later down the line, but do you put an Omastar into your Guardy to beat birds, and does that beat birds?
We talked about this with Hunter.
I don't know.
I think you have to. Your board has to be double Pidgey with a board, and then every turn you have to dig as much as you can with like Hapu. You retreat the one with the board into a Guru, and then you resource, and then once they kill it, then you play items again. So that's like the only way to beat it.
And if they don't kill it,
I think you can beat Guardian because they're like slower if you do that strat, but I don't think you can beat like the Charizard breaks because they can just weld or like turn 1 and like get it set up so fast, so like you can't really thin your deck fast enough to deal with it. So I don't know. It just depends on what deck is playing the Omastar,
Word.
And they're just stamping you every time because you're like trying.
And also they have to like. There you go.
You're like with that strategy with double Pidgeotto, you have to build such a big hand to handle everything that like they're just gonna go stamp you, kill, and then search for another stamp. The Charizard one will, and then I think Guardian kind of does the same thing where you're just like grab a tag switch, take up early prizes. You're gonna have a fatter board at the beginning, so you're not gonna play items at the beginning. It's gonna be like a solid 2 turns before you get to build this magical board of you being able to play items. And then not only that, you're like, how many Hapu are you playing, right? Like you're playing one or 2 Hapu, and then you're playing it, and then you're putting it back the bottom of your deck, and you're only getting 2 airmails. I don't see it personally.
So we're saying that Omastar would beat Pidgey usually.
I don't think it auto wins Pidgey, but I definitely think if your deck does well against Pidgey, and then you have Omastar, then it's good.
Also, like, if you're playing Omastar, you can't prize any of the pieces.
Okay, yeah.
Or, like, you have to draw it early. Yeah. So, like, with Guardian, you play what? You play this Fossil, you play Candy, you play Omastar, and then you play Calm, so you can Calm for the Omastar. Mm-hmm. So if you prize one of those pieces, it's just, like, 10 times harder to get it out. So, I don't know.
Let me just say that I tested this with Alec, and I was on the side of Guardian, and it was miserable. having to play that deck. Like put a calm and then the 3 pieces for the fossils. And
Yeah,
then
it's just so hard to
hope
hit.
it's not prized. It was pretty miserable. I was like, I'm not going to try this hard just to play Guardian when maybe the deck isn't even good elsewhere.
Yeah.
Hunter, give me your thoughts on Guardian's meta percentage from LAIC to Daytona. I'm thinking it's going to drop a lot.
Oh, I think it will drop for sure. I think what people thought was, like I was saying in the beginning, that people were going to respect Malamar, and Malamar was going to come in and do some stuff. So then the people were like, oh, well, we'll just play Guardian. That just rails now. You got Malawana, you got Great Potion. If you play the correct charms, you beat Mewtwo. So I don't think it was a bad call. I do think it was really bad if you like, I feel like all the Americans respected Pidgey and all the Brazilians are just like, we won't hit it.
Yeah. The American, I feel like North America like ran themselves in circles over Pidgey. Like 2 weeks before LAIC, it was like, I'm pretty sure Pidgey's really good. A week before LAIC, it's like, Pidgey's unbeatable. What are we gonna do? Like, nobody can beat Pidgey. And then like 3 days before, it's like, well, I guess we're all teching for Pidgey now that we found out what beats it. Then some of them ended up still playing it. But yeah, so Guardian, looking at it like you said, like, oh, maybe people thought Malamar is going to be played a lot. So in that respect, they were correct to play Guardian then, because Guardian and Malamar were just about tied in day 1 meta percentage. And maybe that's why a few Guardies snuck in.
I think your ADP matchup's good too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, right?
It is, yeah.
Especially if you're playing the correct list. Like, a lot of these lists, like Alec had said, had not respected the charms. Like, I'd be like, in my version of Guardian, my girlfriend is actually playing for the first time this event, and she's going to play Guardian because it's a very easy deck to play and really simple to learn. Just planet stamp and pray. So that's the strat that we on. And I literally, like, I have 1 psychic charm, 1 beast charm, 1 ability charm, 1 dragon charm, just one of all the charms.
Yeah, cover your bases.
Just one. Yeah. Because so many decks are just like gonna fold to that. Like, they're gonna fold. Like, Mewtwo's gonna fold to the 1 psychic charm. Like, you don't need more than 1 to get. Obviously, Prowsing is an issue, but she's playing it, so it's not like it's gonna be the hugest tournament ever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how I would play it. Why would I play ability charm?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's also good for Mewtwo, but not only in the respect that it's a psychic charm.
Mm-hmm.
You could use it for Nagaz if you prize your dragon charm. You can use You can use it for Keldeo can't touch you. You can use it for
Keldeo goes through. Keldeo goes through it.
Yeah.
Then maybe the ability charm isn't too good. Maybe the second psychic.
I mean, it goes through Heatran. Heatran can't attack it. So if they set up Heatran,
I mean, there's a handful of random stuff. Like, I feel like ability charms like very good for the first like 3 or 4 rounds of the tournament when you're hitting like some janky stuff. Like, it just
I just think the engine that Guardian got made it a lot less risky to play.
Yeah, tag call is just such a good card.
Yeah, before you were like, I gotta hope I gear into greens or else I'm screwed. But now it's like, we can just Cynthia. Caitlyn is basically a coach trainer on turn 1, so that's nice. You have Malawana. I don't think the deck's horribly positioned, but I will say this: you get stomped by Reshi, and I would not take anything less than a 50-50 to Reshi this weekend because it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, the meta percentage for Guardy, Isaac, what are you thinking?
I think it'll definitely be lower for sure, based on how it had like one of the worst conversion rates into day 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think many people will play it. It's also just like, especially with ability doing well, that'll even make it more unpopular. People don't want to just go into the event taking a loss to ability.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on to Malamar. So Malamar is seemingly popular no matter what the general consensus of the archetype is at this point. Like, I just don't think it matters who says it's good, who says it's bad. There's going to be a nice chunk of people playing a Malamar variant. So are we expecting it to be in the 10% range for Daytona like it was for LAIC, Isaac?
So I think it'll be around the same percentage, just because like it's not the same as Guardian, where Guardian has like specific matchups that are good or bad. Malamar kind of just like, it's based on how your deck just works. And people think that Clear Vision just like wins matchups, so people think it's a safe play. They all have the cards for it, and they've been playing it for a while. So I think that they'll pretty much have the same numbers as it did in LAIC for sure. And they also think it's favored versus Mewtwo, which will probably make them want to play it even more.
I would argue I think it can be favored versus Mewtwo.
Yeah.
It depends on both players' lists.
A lot of people think it is. Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that pans out. Do you think it's a good play this weekend?
I think it's decent, but I think Malamar is a lot more skill based than people think it is. So like, you have to be really comfortable with the deck to do well with it, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hunter, I'm very excited to hear your take on this actually, because I'm just going to share with the viewers for a moment that at AC I was playing Ability Zard and you were playing the Malamar from Ability Zard's Nightmares, and I took the fattest O2 to you. Do you think that your Malamar list or something similar from AC has any potential this weekend?
I was going to say that, yes. So I think with the amount of incoming Zard, I think the hoods going back in Maui is just like for sure the move. And now you get Amulet with the alternate, like the build. I guess not everybody knows the build that I was playing because I only got top 64. So I didn't do that well. But
yeah, I'll show some of it on the screen. Don't worry.
It had Ultra Cosma and Dawn Wings to be able to pressure stuff like Pika and to use the GX attack against Ability Zard. So basically your plan is let one tag go off, use one Mew spread, and then two or three distortion doors, and then you use Ultra Cosma to finish off all the Pokemon you had smacked with Giratina, and you use custom catchers to kind of set this up so you only attack when you want to.
And now you have great catchers for the Dedenne.
Yes, now you have great catcher for the Dedenne and the Zard and the Heat Ram that you've left on the board and damaged.
It's insane. I was theorying this out last night. I took your list from AC, and it was like, oh my god, you have more deck space if you play great catchers now. Like,
right, so the 4 custom catchers now goes to a nice 2 great catcher, and you get to throw an Amulet. And the cool thing about Amulet is you can go in with Ultra Cosmos super early and hit huge damage, and you're only worth 1 prize. So I think that version of the deck, if you like I expect this much Ability Zard, will do well. The only problem is that version loses really hard to Mewtwo. That version isn't prepared for Mewtwo. Because you'll have Plant. It didn't like back in the day when you played back in the day, as in like 2 months ago. But you had back Plant and all this shit. But Mimikyu comes in, Baby Blacephalon comes in. So now you get to do the 12, and you get to do the spread 6 everywhere. So I think this deck's very, very strong. I would want to, like I said, the Amulet definitely goes in. The catchers come out for 2 great catcher. Mimikyu and Blound somehow make its way into there. Maybe Dawn Wings comes out. But I don't think the variant's bad. And Malamar as a whole, I think, is pretty good right now. I think your Mewtwo matchup is decently good. I'm going to say like 55-45, depending on the skill level of the Malamar player.
Yeah.
I also think there are things that Mewtwo can do, like per se, they play Jirachi GX again, or they play multiple weakness energy, things like that. They can do correctly Malilana, correctly set up their board without a bunch of Dedennes and stuff that can get knocked out. I think Mewtwo can also, it also depends on the skill player or skill level of the Mewtwo player.
Yeah, and the Mewtwo lists are very all over. Oh, what was that? Sorry.
No, I think Malamar's a decent call. I don't want to, the decks that I'm considering, Malamar's in my like lower tier of considerations because I get nightmares about my opening hands. But you know, I would want less Malamar at this tournament, but I think there will be a decent amount.
Cool. Alec, unless you have anything to add on Malamar, we'll move on to the next one since we talked a lot about it already.
Yeah, Hunter said it all.
Okay, cool. So we'll start off Ability Zard with Alec. So Ability Zard was not widely played at a LAIC, but it was successful. How popular do you think it will be at Daytona after coming off of the win in LAIC?
So I've been like talking about this in like different group chats and all my testing groups that I'm in. And, like the thing is, I think it's gonna be like the world's meta shift, whereas like we saw Ability Zard pop do really well, and then we saw Robin go to Cologne. right with it again,
Yep.
but instead of the 18 fire, he played 13 fire crystal or 14 fire crystal. I think that version could be very good again, especially if Malamar is going to be played, because you have a better one prize matchup in that version.
Yeah.
I think abilities are we'll see we'll definitely see more play, like compared to like 21 masters and like 21 people and like 800 masters or whatever.
Yeah.
LAIC, I don't remember count. Like that's just such a low number, such a low representation of what the deck actually should see.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I think at Daytona, I think we're sitting at like 400 masters. I think it could be like say 15% of the field, maybe at the max 15, but at the same time, I don't know the Florida look.
15's a lot, Alec.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many.
15's a lot, but I might agree with that number.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, look at Portland. So when we were doing the first expanded talks on the channel, my friend Eric Arts mentioned how Portland, like this was before Richmond, and he was like, no matter what happens at Richmond, there's going to be an absurd amount of people at Portland playing Dark because of the area that the regionals is at, because those people have been playing Turbo Dark for every expanded event. And he was pretty much right on the spot with that. So I think we could see something happen with Abilities Art if, like you guys are saying, your meta really took to Abilities Art when it came around.
Mewtwo's were super expensive as well, and that took into a part. Like after Worlds, like Reshies were way cheap, and people thought the matchup was close, so people were just like, "Oh, I'll just invest in Reshi instead."
Yeah, Mewtwo's are down now, so like people might just be like, "Well, Azul and Danny thought it was good, so I think I'm just gonna play Mewtwo," which honestly is not a bad way to look at it. Like they're two very good players, very successful players, and Mewtwo did well in their hands. So, any differing thoughts on Abilities Art for Daytona, Isaac or Hunter?
Not really, honestly.
Cool.
It'll be big. You need to respect it. I wouldn't play it because I'm not going to play a YOLO 4-welder deck.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if I went in and my deck, I was like, oh, I have a 60-40 versatility, and then I just lost to it because they hit welder every turn. I wouldn't be surprised. So, like, I could see a lot of people just getting mad whenever they lose the ability, even though they think that their deck beats it. That's the problem.
It might get out respected as well. I think a lot of people are going to be like, it's really good, even though it's a high roll deck, so I need to play a deck that beats it. So it might not do well, but it definitely will show up.
So my next question, Alec already started mentioning this, so I'll ask it to Alec. Do you expect Abilities Art to be countered like it was at Cologne and then AC after its success at Worlds? So do you expect like exactly similar situations, like the Wobbuffet, the Stealthy Hoods, etc., or do you think it's not that big of a deal right now?
Right. I don't think people. I don't know if people are going to respect it like Hunter and Isaac said. I don't think people are going to respect it to the point where they're going to go out of their way to change their whole build to beat like Abilities Art and then like take a kind of worse. It's not like terrible against Mewtwo, but like I think you're definitely less like favored against Mewtwo because your tempo is a lot slower because you don't hit energy as often as you you hit crystals as much as you do. So the version that Robin played at Cologne is a lot slower, but at the same time, I really like you just have a better matchup against like Mir, Malamar, like etc. I think Tex going into it, maybe Dex can fit it. Like Mewtwo could probably play Wob, but like the second place list, like that's probably what the second place list at LAIC Mewtwo is probably going to be playing this weekend. And I've been trying to find a cut for a second reset hole, and I sit there, or I've sat at my desk for probably 2 hours each night trying to figure out what to cut, and I can't figure out a card to cut because the list is so perfect as is.
So if you're not cutting for a reset hole, you're not cutting for Wob.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't see any more merit to playing a Wob over a second reset hole because ADP is still going to play because people aren't going to take the time to test it and realize that you can't keep up in this format.
Differing thoughts on the Tex versus Abilities Art, Isaac?
I think Abilities Art just kind of goes in a cycle. So like it'll be really, really bad for a tournament, no one plays it, and then everyone's like, oh, no one's expecting it again, so then they all play it again, and then the next tournament it gets countered with hoods and stuff. I think the deck should definitely be respected for like you should like Hunter said, definitely take at least a 50-50 to it. But I think it kind of goes in a cycle, and I think it won't do. It definitely will not win the event 100%. I could see Mewtwo winning again.
Cool. Okay, my next question, and bear with me here, it might get a little confusing. I tried to word this as well as I could. What do you think the ability Zard of this weekend will be? So ability Zard was a deck that we had seen before be really popular and really successful. It kind of fell off in lieu of the newer archetypes because there was hype around ADP, even Reshiram Zekrom at some point, new cards from Mewtwo. So what do you think a deck that has sunk under the radar but is still good, and maybe it's good because it fell off the radar? Do we have anything like that that's not ability Zard for this weekend, Hunter?
Okay. So under the radar deck. So first, I think a lot of people like don't talk about the baby Blacephalon Pidgey. I think that deck is super solid. I think you have a lot of good matchups. You obviously fold the Valley, so that sucks.
Yeah.
I personally like big Blacephalon right now. I don't think you take awful matchups to a whole lot of stuff. You definitely have a decent Reshizard matchup. You have a good Mewtwo matchup. You have a good ADP matchup. Some people will argue differently with me about that, but I think your ADP matchup is fine. So I think both Blacephalons are decent. I also think that decks like the dolls. So everybody respecting abilities might not have the space in their deck to or tech for dolls or Pidge. And now that we're back in America, I think a lot more people are like ready to pull the Pidgey trigger. They've been waiting for like 2 weeks to like their fingers are itching. They're like, oh, I'm ready to freaking airmail. This deck's broken.
Yeah.
So I think in respecting ability Zard, you might not respect these other decks that are also like I think Pidgey and Dolls are both tier 1. And I think somebody in the right hands, like Sander Wojcik's list, could go deep.
Yep.
A good Pidgey list could go deep. Pidgey Browns with the dolls could go deep. Big Browns could go deep. There's a lot of decks in this format that can go deep. But in that, in the speed category, like Alec was saying, how our format is really fast. Some decks just get, the fire gets put out too early for you because you're too slow.
Yeah. So my next question was about Pidgey, and we'll just lump dolls into that as well. So control archetypes. Are they going to be forgotten about this weekend? Are they going to be played, and will they be successful? Hunter, you already spoke a bit on it. Isaac, you can talk about either birds or dolls or both if you like, and whatever you want to say about them. If they're forgotten, will they be played? Will they be successful?
So I definitely don't think they'll be forgotten, but I think a lot of like players that like used to play Pidgey in America, I think they'll switch to dolls just because they saw it do so well. And it's also just really fun to play, flipping coins and getting your dolls back.
Yeah.
So I feel like dolls will for sure be really popular, but I wouldn't say that it'd be more popular than birds. I still think birds will be more popular than dolls, but both will definitely be big. I think if you're playing dolls, you kind of just have to accept the kind of hard matchup to Mewtwo and hope that you draw well enough and they don't hit like the turn 2 cross divide. Same with birds. If they hit the turn 2 cross divide, it's really hard. And if you don't Kuno, stamp, plan on the perfect turn, then I think it's also hard. A lot of Mewtwo lists are also playing double Marshadow, so that makes it really hard for birds. So I think people are definitely ready for it. So I don't think they'll do that great, but I would be surprised to see maybe like even 2 in top 8. I wouldn't be surprised.
Alec, I know you've been looking at and working with Sanders' doll deck that Hunter referenced. Talk to me about how you think it could do this weekend, and maybe even a little bit about the Zard or Mewtwo matchup if you have any insight for that, because I know not everyone has touched dolls but would like to hear about it.
Yeah, it's the best deck in the format if you set up and if you don't prize like terribly. Celesteela is the best card in the deck. I will say hands down for sure. I think Celesteela
GX.
Yeah, the Unbroken Bonds one.
The one with the ability that stops GX attacks from affecting you.
It's for the GX attack. You take your 6 prizes, then you put the top 6 into the prizes. So like if you're dead drawing, you just use that.
Yeah, and then What was I trying to say? Oh, your abilities art matchup is it's very weird, to be honest. You have to hope they put down the Dene, and if they, because they normally do. If they do, you can potentially 90% of the games that the opponent puts down to Dene, you can win because of Woobat. But at the same time, abilities art plays 4 switches, and the board doesn't really matter as much. But the 4 switch is really hard. So like if they build up their hand, you can try in Persian and make them pay out their switches, but otherwise it's like really hard because you gotta like try to figure out, okay, are they gonna switch this turn? Are they gonna switch this turn? And you gotta try to figure it out. I don't know for sure. The way I've been beating it is setting up Ditto with Hood, just going into Almastar and just trapping up the Dene that way with Woobat. But at the same time, if you don't get that far because of the prizes and everything, you're kind of SOL. Mewtwo matchup is fine. Clear Vision is very good. It just stops the Espeon Deoxys. I don't know, like really how far like deep you want to get. I want to get into it because like it's not like it's very straightforward. Like the Florges, Munchlax plan. It's kind of like dolls. You're playing dolls at that point, but you're just clear visioning them. So
no, you're good. I just wanted some insight into the matchups. But I don't think
Woobat's broken.
I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody can just briefly explain that deck because you're saying Woobat and Celesteela and all this stuff. Like it's a deck you kind of have to look at for yourself and really try.
The deck was built to deal with literally every scenario in Standard.
Yeah, that's kind of how Standard builds his stall decks or his control decks.
The deck is the best deck in format if you set up and you can play correctly.
It's
also
really
like it's not even about setting up at that point. It's about executing your 1-of-1 plan in your 26 1-of deck.
Yeah.
While also your opponent's taking prizes against you. It's like literally figuring out a Rubik's cube.
It's like solitaire on a timer.
It's literally. I've played games in the deck and just been like, holy crap, I can do like 3 things right here, and I don't know which one of them's right.
Yeah, The deck's crazy. We'll leave it at that. It's on Limitless, right? If anyone wants to see it.
No,
it's not.
It's not. But Sander commented on some posts, or someone on Hey Fonte asked for the list, and then he commented it, so you could probably find it if you just search it up.
That's how you guys have found it then?
I mean, I had a friend text me it, which is very cool.
So it's out there. If people can figure it out.
It's out there.
Limitless will find it eventually and get it on their site. Okay, are there any rogue decks or any other decks we did not mention? I know this question, like, the comments get blown up every meta discussion, like, oh, you didn't mention Dark Box. Or, I mean, that's a bad example because somebody's definitely going to say that. But I mean it as in, like, oh, you didn't mention this deck that takes up 2% of the meta. We're not going to mention every deck, but, like, is there anything relevant that we forgot?
Nuzzle.
Yeah, Nuzzle.
Oh, yeah.
You forgot Nuzzle.
Oh, my God. All right. So let me just go on a Nuzzle tangent real quick, because this is the reason why I did not make day 2 at LAIC.
All right, you got 60 seconds.
round one, I play against a Alolan Executor Valprum GX. I'm playing Tina Chomp Greens with Magdas. Somehow I beat that, even though it's pretty much an impossible matchup. And then back-to-back rounds, I play against 2 Nuzzle decks. And both games, they're just like, yep, I'll go second. Boom, a Mulga out on my guys, bench 2 Pikachus, put 6 energy on board, go ahead. Like, a lot of decks just straight up cannot deal with that. And then the next turn, you're like, pop Coco, pop E-Powers, one-shot you with Raichu. Like, I don't think Raichu is actually that bad. And I think a lot of people are, like, meaning on it because they think that it's like, oh, it's a budget deck and, oh, you just get cross-divided. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you bench Pikachus instead of Emolgas, you have 70 HP, and they have to cross-divide you that next turn. Yeah. They have to go Welder, attach, and Welder, attach the next turn. You can evolve into Raichus, and then they all have 120. So if you stack your energies correctly,
I definitely think the deck functions. The deck functions, and they also drop a Reshiram tag team on you out of nowhere sometimes. But yeah, the deck definitely functions. I'll give it that.
It also costs like $15 to build the deck.
budget decks. Anything else?
I think there's one deck in the one in top 64 that was like the Mewtwo abilities are thing.
Right.
That deck's very cool. I don't know if I like it over abilities are Mewtwo. Like I love Mewtwo. I'm 90% playing it. Like it's my number 1 as of right now. But I think the deck is just like very cool because you have 4 energy 300 and then 6 energy 300. So like even if you like draw attach pass, like you still have the threat of 300 for. Whereas like abilities are, you're just like, oh, can't hit 300. Guess I'm like falling behind. But I think it's very cool. It's definitely to be experimented with.
Cool. All right, let me get your top 3 decks for the tournament. So decks that you expect to see in top 8.
Mewtwo, abilities are third one. I see a Pidgey could make it maybe if it sneaks its way in.
Okay, cool. Hunter?
Mewtwo, Malamar, and Dolls.
Cool. And Isaac?
I'm gonna say 1 ADP, 2 or 3 Mewtwo's, and then the rest will be Birds, Dolls, or Mally.
Cool.
Or I think I already said Birds. Yeah, Mally and Dolls.
No, you're good. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for being on the channel for this discussion. And if you have any shout-outs, we'll go Alec, then Hunter, then Isaac.
All right. So I'm gonna steal Isaac's thunder. Shout out to NRG, our sponsor. It's definitely one of the best like organizations to ever work, and I really just appreciate everything they do for us. Appreciate all the new guys that we here, and it's been a blast. Shout out to all my testing groups like Lou, hello, Isaac, like all you guys. You guys are awesome. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Flipside Gaming. I write for them. You can check out my article. Flipside Gaming. Use code Celio for 5% off on your orders. I'm going to be dropping a different site this Friday, and they are bringing me on as a new writer, so I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be Thursday or Friday. And shout out to
Hunter, any shout outs?
Oh yeah. Shout out to Carter Tap. Those are my boys: Finn Lynch, Mike Morton, Cale Obernight, Carter Barsh, Joe Sanchez. Great group of guys. I really enjoy testing with them. Shout out to honestly the Florida crew. I'm glad to finally have a home court like tournament after being gone for like 3 weeks. So screw traveling. I only have like a 40-minute drive. So shout out to that. Shout out to you for having me on here, and hopefully we all do pretty well this weekend.
Awesome. And Isaac?
Of course, as Alec, shout out to NRG for sponsoring me. They're awesome. Shout out to the Potown store and the PCGO store. I write articles for them now, so we'll see how that goes. And shout out to everyone I test with. And shout out Brett Burns.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. As always, check out flipsidegaming.com, like Alex said, and use code Celio, all caps, for 10% off, not 5% off.
10. Dang it.
And I'm also sponsored by PotownStore.com, and you can use my code Celio there for 5% off as well. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this and want to see more content, and definitely let me know what kind of content you want to see in the future. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.